Satan offered the temptation out there, and in the eyes of many in the Islamic world, Western culture, Hollywood is our second biggest export, ladies and gentlemen. We dominate the world as far as culture is concerned, and it's spreading. There are people who resent that. Some extremists will take the law into their own hands in the form of a perverted holy war, one that is not truly backed by the Quran, as most Islamic scholars will assure you. But that danger is out there for us.
A comment, question from Loretta? I'm sorry, John, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was just going to add that I agree with Clarence that the one point we were talking about before about whether America has helped provoke this by hurting Islamic interests. Well, yes, sure, we defend Israel, but remember, we went in to defend Somalia, and a Muslim nation. We spent a lot of money and time and energy protecting the Muslims in Yugoslavia. And most recently, the United States went well out of its way to put great pressure on Israel to come to terms with the Palestinians. So whatever mistakes we have made, they have not been one-sided by any means.
Loretta, go ahead.
I agree.
Yes, I was responding earlier to David's comment about karma and, what the United States do to deserve this. And I think my comment is that actually, if we look at the history of the United States, we've actually always been there to help our neighboring countries in the global wars that we've had in the past, and I find it extremely difficult. I've heard a lot of people say, well, maybe America deserves this because of our policies and some of the things we've done. No, America does not deserve this. America has been, certainly we've made our mistakes, I think, but to stop to think we've been a great country that has been there to help many others, oftentimes even to the demise of our own citizens. And so when we look at that, we have to be thankful that America has been there for others, and we hope others would be here for us.
Let me take another phone call from Julia in Massachusetts. Julia, you have an interesting perspective.
Hi.
Hi.
I was born in the former Soviet Union. I am now a citizen of the United States. I was 5 years old when Soviet troops entered Afghanistan, so for me, when I became conscious of what was going on, it was already a fact of life. And I've seen people who came back from there, they came back changed, and most didn't come back. And my point is that while the American public is calling for quick revenge, retaliation, ground troops in Afghanistan, people just don't understand what it's like in there. People don't understand that American Army has never had a chance to train on the terrain like the terrain in Afghanistan. I'm very worried about seeing a lot more American troops come home in zinc coffins, which is how Russian boys came home, because they were just, killed, unrecognizable. They would have to be put in zinc coffins. And
Julia, thanks very much for your comment. She does make a point. History is not really on our side when it comes to going into a country like Afghanistan.
We need to learn the lessons of history, of course. The Russians were in there trying to support an illegitimate government, and they ran into some severe problems. The kind of things we're going to run into if we think, again, that military might alone is going to win. We must begin to, first of all, close that information gap that we have about Osama bin Laden, about his movement. Obviously, we've had our wake-up. I don't say wake-up call. We've had our wake-up. We should have had our wake-up call in the year 2000 when the Millennium Bomber was captured in Seattle, one of bin Laden's men about to blow up Los Angeles airport. Instead of waking up, we hit the snooze alarm. We thought, or snooze button. We thought we were going to be able to beat this terrorism thing more easily than we have been able to. And now, sadly, we have this terrible tragedy. America is awakened, but we must not rush blindly in our rage into a bigger problem, another quagmire. We must do this the right way in preparation for this new century.
The White House is confirming for us, we're just learning now that British Prime Minister Tony Blair will be at the White House on Thursday, which is a little bit earlier, I understand, from a trip that he had been planning, obviously under the circumstances. Go ahead up here to the back row.
What happened last Tuesday, was against all of humanity. There were all races, religions, ethnicities. We have terrorism has been around for thousands of years, and we've got to find a peaceful way to come to all love each other. Otherwise, it's the end of humanity. Planes were flying overhead that afternoon in our home, and I thought, this is what war must be like. What a terrible, terrible tragedy it would be if this is what it ended up to be, because it would affect every one of us.
We should explain
We've gotta
you
learn.
live in Connecticut,
Yes.
so you are close by.
We must learn to live with all of us and love all of us.
Sergio, you had a concern. You're from Mexico.
Yes, my concern is Pakistan is going to let the United States Army to attack Afghanistan, but I know that Pakistan and India, they have some frictions. Therefore, also they have nuclear weapons. I'm a little bit concerned if nuclear weapons are going to get into the equation of this big problem that we have now.
May I speak to that, Bobby?
Certainly, John.
Yes. I think we have to take into account that Pakistan is in a very vulnerable situation. It's right between Iraq and Afghanistan. It can be invaded from either side. They are carrying our message to the Taliban, whether we can rely on them to be wholehearted allies or force them to do things that could topple that regime and put nuclear weapons in the hands of people who do not wish us well. So that has to be very carefully handled, the whole issue of Pakistan.
I have an email here from Joe in Fort Worth, Texas, who says, if the Taliban is so concerned about its impoverished people, why don't they ask bin Laden to contribute some of his many millions to improve life for these poor? The answer probably is that he doesn't care and would rather spend his money on hate and terrorism. Eric, go ahead, your comment.
Yes, there was a mention of bridging the gap of ignorance about bin Laden and his movements. What about the gap of the rest of the terrorists that could easily take his place if we did bring bin Laden in?
I'm not sure there are terrorists who could easily take his place. Bin Laden is a special figure. He's not a strategist. He's not a militarist. He is an inspiration. And ironically, we have helped to improve his charismatic appeal among this extreme element by giving him so much attention. We have to give him attention, of course, but at the same time, Colin Powell has said we're not going to just go after bin Laden, we're going to go after the entire terrorist network. That's a big proposition, but it is an essential proposition because you're right, one person isn't the whole story.
We have to end it there. John Leo and Clarence Page, thank you very much for educating us. Appreciate you being here. And we will be back again tomorrow at 2 Eastern Time for another 2-hour special edition of Talkback Live. Right now, all eyes are on Wall Street, where the markets will be closing in just a few moments. Lou Dobbs takes us up to the closing bell right after this break. Stay with us.
Refinancing your mortgage may be easier than you think. Just log on to Ditech.com or call 1-800-71-FIX. Today's low fixed rate with 0 points is only 6.750%. With interest rates lower, now may be a great time to get cash or use the equity in your home to consolidate bills. It's smart money from Ditech.com. Apply online or call us at 1-800-71-FIX.
For the latest developments as events unfold in America's new war, stay with CNN.
Are you one of the millions of American males who would like increased sexual energy? If you've been considering Viagra as a solution, consider something different. All-natural Enerx. Clinical studies show various ingredients of Enerx enhance sexual energy, increasing desire, performance, and satisfaction. Enerx is all natural with no side effects. With Enerx, you'll feel the increased energy within minutes and with no chemicals. We're so sure you and your mate will be completely satisfied. We'll offer you a 30-day, no questions asked, full refund. Enerx stimulates sexual energy by expanding the blood vessels, causing increased blood flow to specific areas of the body. Unleash the power of Enerx now.
Call 1-800-367-3614 toll-free, and it will be delivered discreetly to your home. Get results using the safe, all-natural alternative, Enerx.
How would you like to lose that big belly and save big money? Then you need the Abdur system, designed to aerobically burn fat as it flattens your abs in just minutes a day, and it's yours for a fraction of the cost. Look, ab machines strengthen muscles but won't reduce your waist, and some exercises can make your muscles bigger. Only the Abdur's rotating torso trimmer targets your upper abs, lower abs, and obliques, all in one fat-burning circular motion. You'll flatten your stomach in weeks, not months. We guarantee it.
Before I started using the Abdur system, I was really unhappy the way I looked. Ever since I started using the Abdur system, I started seeing immediate results, and I feel so much happier and more confident in everything I do.
These machines cost up to $8,000. The Abdur does the work of all these machines. Millions have sold for 5 payments of only $29.95. But if you call now, we'll lower the price to 5 payments of only $19.95. That's a $50 savings. Plus, you get the Abdobix nutritional guide and motivational video free. We guarantee you'll lose at least 2 inches in just 10 days or your money back. So call now.
This is CNN.
Among the highest number of graduates in computer science and engineering in the country, over 4,700 graduates in computer and information sciences, over 5,000 graduates in engineering, including chemical and bioengineering, and they all graduated from the same place. Just who produces this kind of talent for the workforce each and every year?
Pennsylvania.
In the next 15 minutes, a new look will go from outrage to all the rage. A simple song can define a generation. In the next 15 minutes, start cooking. Get hot-wired. Shift into 5th gear. Now, lifestyle news that fits your ever-changing life. So you know an enduring trend from a passing fad. In the next 15 minutes, CNN Headline News. Real news, real fast.
Well, the markets today tumbling right from the opening bell. The Dow Jones Industrials plunging more than 650 points, about 7%. The Dow officially falling into bear market territory today. That is defined by a 20% decline or more drop from a market's all-time closing high. The Dow hit its record high of 11,722 just over a year and a half ago. It is now down 24% from that all-time high. The Nasdaq down about 6.5% on the day's session, closing at levels not seen since October of 1998. We're going to turn to our correspondents following the day's sell-off on Wall Street, and we're going to begin with Rhonda Schaffler at the New York Stock Exchange. Rhonda?
Lou, this will be a day when records are set, the biggest one-day point loss for the Dow Industrials, and the busiest trading day on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. But the Dow, at this point, does not look like it will close at its worst levels of the session. For a brief time, the Dow dropped more than 700 points this afternoon, as that chart illustrates. It did bounce back from that. The other thing that's important to mention here, Lou, is that throughout the day, the selling, while heavy, has been orderly. We have just about a minute and a half before that closing bell rings. Last 90 seconds to get in orders. There is no panic on this trading floor. I have been on this floor when there is panic. There is none today. This was a day where the markets opened and they functioned, and while the sell-off was severe, the markets still were made. Lou, one thing I want to point out to you as we head up to the closing bell, you were here for the very emotional bell ringing this morning. To ring the closing bell this afternoon is an NYSE security officer who was responsible for evacuating 130 people from the World Trade Center. Lou.
Right, an exceptional day, and as you say, wrapping up the day's session, Rhonda, it began the same way, orderly trading throughout. Let's go now to Greg Clarkin over at the NASDAQ market site, where trading has been both brisk and down. Greg?
And Lou, I'll tell you, today's performance by the NASDAQ impressing a lot of folks. They're taking comfort in the fact that the NASDAQ is ending the session really right about where it began the session. It opened with about 100, 110-point drop, and that's pretty much where it finds itself now. Volume, percentage loss, point loss, not even close to being in the top 10 today. So those internal benchmarks really holding up nicely in the NASDAQ. Coming out of this session fairly well. We never saw the wave after wave of selling. A lot of folks anticipated after that early wave of selling. Lou?
Yeah, Greg, as you say, the market not approaching even on percentage or absolute terms. We're going back to the New York Stock Exchange. You're listening to the closing bell on this historic session after these markets were open today after